want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, especially the 144,000, consisting of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, yeah, it's been a few days since you heard me. I haven't really been feeling that great this week. So kind of been held back for a couple of days. I just didn't really feel good, didn't really feel like speaking. But I've got a lot, obviously you can see all my tabs. So I'm just going to bounce through a couple of different subjects relating to prophecy. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and 11. It says, least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So we understand that the spiritual demon Satan works against us. We don't fight flesh and blood. We fight against principalities. You have the rulership. You have Yahweh, the Most High. You have his son, Yahushai. And then you also have the spiritual son, Satan, who does the work of the Father, sends out other spirits, in that hierarchy, if you like, on the left-hand side, in order to do work on behalf of the spiritual demon Satan, ultimately on the behalf of the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. And so, living in this time, we're not ignorant of these particular devices. Psalms 37 and 7 says, rest in Yahweh. It says, and wait patiently for him. It says, fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. So, we're in this time where we're waiting on the return of Yahushai. We're hoping we're of that number who are going to be redeemed, the elect of the nation of Israel. And meanwhile, we're watching out for these particular prophecies to come to pass. And we know we've got the MOTB, Revelation chapter 13, not being able to buy or sell without a particular device under the skin. And we believe that's digital currency, a digital format of the international currency, and then obviously a device which goes under the skin in order to buy or sell. So that will be like RFID related. And, soon, obviously, we've got World War III, which is going to be taking place. And soon after the MOTB gets made mandatory, we have the return of Yahushai, which is ultimately what we're focusing on. So in that time now, we're not ignorant of the devices of Satan. The physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan are these Edomites, in particular the banking elites, who are bringing about these particular events, these changes in the worldwide economy. So meanwhile, it says here, rest in Yahweh. It's rest, that's what we do. We take peace, we take comfort from the Holy Spirit, from the understanding of these scriptures, that we have the correct understanding that gives us the true vision of the things that are to come. And then we believe the fact that the Most High has given us that, he must be working with us. So then, we can rest with that. It says here, wait patiently for him. It says, fret not thyself, so don't get stressed, don't worry, because of him who prospereth in his way. Mainly these Edomites. You've got many people in the world which live under this beast system, which is ultimately manipulated by the whore, Babylon the Great, which is America. And this is the Edomite power structure ruling the earth. But then you have our people, we have other nations who operate within that beast system, who do wicked things to prosper. But This in particular is talking about the banking elites. It says here, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. So it's all about, one thing to work within the system and, trample over people and, just to make yourself prosper. However, the ones who bringeth the man, it says here, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. Um, so we live in this system, we live under this structure, and it's because of the things that are laid out through the banking elites. And we keep saying that this is going to have this great reset that's coming on this planet very soon. We're in the midst of it now. Donald Trump is a big part of it. You've got all these new governments around the world which have just been installed either last year or this year. And the memo that they're receiving from the banking elites is that it's about time to make this change, this great reset. And so these are the devices that they ultimately want to bring to pass. Now, it's one thing to make that change from having, as we have at the minute, a fiat currency system. You have cash, you have coins, you have credit cards, you have checks, and you do have digital payments, obviously through like credit cards, so on and so forth. However, the change is going to be made as it's spoken of in Revelation 13, where that no man can buy or sell unless you have a particular device under the skin. And that's one device that these Edomites are going to bring to pass, but then they bring many other things to pass along the route, many other devices to lead us to that main particular device. And these are the types of devices that Apostle Paul warned us about. So off the back of that, I came across this. This is Big Brother Watch. This is 4 days ago. And basically it says, yeah, what no one is saying about the first citywide facial recognition zone. So, we understand obviously the prophecy of Revelation 13. It is talking about a device under the skin, pretty much in order to buy or sell, in the hand, in your dominant hand. But then it goes on to say this device could be placed in the forehead. And people say, well, it's not likely that you're going to have a device in your forehead and you're going to use that to buy and sell. You're at the counter and you're bending your head down to scan at the counter so you can pay for these particular goods. So, but what it does, it lets you know that this technology that's going under the skin, it pushes you in the type of direction, the understanding of what type of technology it is. And then so you come across a device like Neuralink, that involves a cutting into the skin, and affecting obviously your mind. They say that obviously it's for benefits. If you've lost certain functions within the body, you can regain that by taking Neuralink. And this is all part of that same technology involving the device under the skin to buy or sell. It's all linked to pretty much AI. And so then another major part of AI is like facial recognition. You see, we're going into this time of great reset, and it's a time of financial reset, going from fiat currency to digital only currency, going from being able to use cash, coins, credit cards, checks, to only being able to use the device under the skin. But it's also a change on a worldwide level in terms of this AI. They're bringing in this AI technology. They've been building it for years. They've developed certain parts of it in certain areas. In certain sections, you've had like facial recognition built. You've had the technology for this RFID for the device to go under the skin to be able to make contactless payments. So you've had these people that work on computers building this AI infrastructure around the world. You've had 5G. I don't know if they've got 6G now, if that exists or what. I know that in my area where I'm living at the minute, in the UK, I know that some of these networks, like these phone provider networks, they're switching off their 3G at the end of this year, 2025. So we're bang in the middle of this great reset, and so you're going to see massive changes taking place as we keep warning you. So 2025, I've seen messages go out from these network providers saying, if you've got a phone and it's on a 3G platform, it only operates on a 3G platform. You basically at the end of the year, it's not going to work. So you have to update to 4G. But really, what they're rolling out, I believe it's the 5G. If not, I'm wrong. It could be the 6G, but I think it is the 5G. So, and then this facial recognition. See, this all goes together hand in hand. They want to create a world, a, an AI digital prison. You got Klaus Schwab. He says, you will own nothing and be happy. And you think, well, how is that possible? It's because you're living in a world where you're controlled by AI, you're monitored by AI. Eventually, they want to have all your deepest, darkest secrets accessible through AI at their will. And, this is how they want to control the world. So not only are you having to buy a cell with the device on the skin, under the skin, but eventually that buying and selling, having money, earning money, will just become a digital credit score. And then you'll have 15-minute cities. You'll be told, you have to live within your 15-minute city. Everything you need is at your disposable, at your what's the word? At your I forgot what the word is, but it's there for you to use basically within the 15-minute city. You don't really need to leave because everything you need, like for example, a gym, a library, a cafe, a supermarket, a school, all these particular things will be within that 15-minute city. And this will all be towards saving the planet, to keep everything green. And it all sounds nice until you realize that then you have things like facial recognition to stop you leaving your 15-minute city. You see, so this whole thing about buying and selling with a device under the skin, it covers a it understanding that this technology can also go into your forehead. It then takes you into that world of AI. Then you open your eyes, if the Most High opens your eyes to all the types of technology of AI that are around, that can be put together, and then you realize what they're actually about to implement. And so, we've got Nero 2.0 over there in the White House. He's the man that's going to usher in this MOTB, his particular government within the next 3 and something years will do that. And you're seeing these other changes taking place around the world. So, we've seen China's been used as a guinea pig for a lot of the technology with facial recognition. I believe they control zones over there. So there's got particular controlled zones where you can't leave, you can't enter without particular types of permission. You go back 5 years ago when we had that particular thing in 2020. Australia was a guinea pig, with certain things that were happening at that time. And so you now look at what's actually happening around the world. All these things that they've been looking at, testing, it's all gradualism. It's all coming into play. We've got we go back to the not being ignorant of Satan's devices. We have order out of chaos. Well, we look at the chaos around us in the world, and they're going to bring order through it very soon using AI technology. They have gradualism. Well, that's a device. Well, gradualism, they're bringing in things slowly. And we've seen facial recognition in China, so we shouldn't be surprised to see it in our own towns. And now you're seeing it in the UK. And what's happened here, you've had a sporting event in Wales, which is classed as, United Kingdom. And pretty much they've had England versus Wales. They call it Six Nations. So you've got this rugby. I don't know if you know about the game of rugby. They got this tournament which is Six Nations. It's like England, Ireland, Scotland, Italy, and France, and something else. And every year in the spring they pretty much get together and they play this tournament. One game's in Ireland, one game's in Wales, one game's in Scotland or whatever. And it's a Six Nations tournament. And so this year, what they've brought in is the facial recognition, and they're actually using it. And this person here, he goes around. He's a fan, so he goes around. He questions the other fans. He can't really see the reason for it. You have all these talking points. They'll give you that, and they'll give you all these topics of debate, and they'll let you talk and discuss about it. But ultimately, they're bringing it in. You've seen it in China, so the gradualism is now is coming to your shores, and you're going to see it as you're seeing it here. It's not like you're going to see it, you are actually seeing it. You've seen it here, it's just happened. So for the first time now, they've got this facial recognition zone. And obviously, where are these? So you've got these like cameras, they're situated around and about the zone. So, they're 360 cameras, they're picking up your faces, they know who you are. So they'll say, it's for crime, for this, that, and the other, which again is a selling point. Just like with the Neuralink, they'll say, well, it's to if you're paralyzed, you've lost the use of your legs, we can use Neuralink to get your legs moving again, things like that. So they're going to sell it to you in one particular way. That's another device, that old salesman trick. But ultimately, it's going to, when you get down the road, you bought that car off that salesman, but when you get down the road, the gear stick, the shift lever, whatever you call it, comes off in your hand, and then you realise what you bought a dud. But with this one, you don't want to do that. It's not like you have a chance with the MOTB, to take it back to the shop and get your refund. You just definitely don't want to get that far. But they're leading us towards it, and this is something that's happening now. So more and more in the UK, you'll start to see this particular type of thing in the sporting events, and probably around Europe. Obviously, I'm speaking from the point of view of the UK. This is a Six Nations tournament, so it covers a couple of other European countries like France and Italy. So they could well be bringing it in over there. There could this Welsh police could be corresponding with French police to say, we had these troublemakers when the game was in Wales, and now Wales' next match is down there in France, so we're gonna send you a list of people to watch out for, or to be wary of, or whatever else. So on one hand, you've got like this technology is coming in bit by bit, and it's getting established around and about us, and then you've got, like, for example, Nero 2.0. You've got Trump. He's pushing forward with these particular things. He's bringing in financial situations in America. He's trying to sort the country out, but it's putting people under pressure. So you've got problems developing there. You've got problems developing in the Middle East, even with Russia and Ukraine. So the world's in a volatile place. But while all these things are going on around us, this AI technology is creeping in, the infrastructure is being put in place, and they switch it on. And before you know it, you get to a sporting event, and they say, "Yeah, today is facial recognition day." And like I say, it all links in. Um, Another thing I saw just today as well in the news is, could London have driverless cabs in the next 2 years? So, like, again, like I mentioned, these particular devices, you've got like order out of chaos, you've got gradualism. Now, gradualism, you've seen it, for example, like I just explained with the AI technology. It's you've seen it over the years. It's come in. It's got closer to you. It's got into your homes. It's on your smartphone, and now you can use it. You've got things like Chat GPT, people producing pictures on AI, and this is all getting your mind accustomed to an AI controlled world. You go onto Google, you type in something, and it gives you an AI overview of everything to save you having to search. So they're, it's leading you, it's holding your hand, and it's walking you in that particular direction. And as you use your everyday technology around you, it has to advance to keep up to date with other people's technology. And so ultimately, you end up walking into these scenarios. I had an iPhone, and I had the same iPhone for many years, and basically I just had the fingerprint. Obviously, that's the only way I could get into the phone was with the fingerprint on the home button. And like last month, the phone stopped working because my operating system is old. They won't let me update the operating system because my device is old, and my apps won't open because they said, well, your operating system is old. So, for years and years and years, I hung on to that phone and I kept it going, and they put me in a situation where I had to go and get a new one. So now I've gone and got a new phone. I've had it, about 6 weeks, and straight away there's no home button, there's no fingerprint button. Now it's facial recognition. So it doesn't matter what I do, how I want to avoid it. To keep up, I had to update the technology, and updating the technology, now they've got my facial recognition, um, you know, biometrics, as well as my thumbprint, which they had from the previous phone. So you're getting trapped into the system whether you like it or not. I remember when I was young and things were on paper, pen and paper. You know, that I know it sounds a bit dodgy, but we used to you're young, you're little kids, you're doing crime, and then we'd always make the guy who hasn't been caught before to do it, and we'd say you do it because they never caught you, which means they never got your fingerprint. And the only way they had your fingerprint is actually when they caught you, they arrested you, and they actually took it with the ink. And so once you had that done to you, it was like you were now out of the game, because then what happens is if you're caught next time, they got your fingerprints, everything you do, and obviously you go onto gloves and all that. But this is us when we're little kids, messing around and all that kind of stuff. But now that's changed because everybody's got smartphones. They've all got your facial recognitions. They've all got your fingerprints, your biometrics. They know where you're walking. They've got your whereabouts. I look at my phone sometimes and it says, oh, it's X amount. It's this many minutes for you to get to work right now. And I'm thinking, well, how do you even know where I work? But they work it out on your location. So that's already happened. But then you've got these like driverless cabs. We've seen them in, like, is it LA? You've seen them in America. Now, you know, this is how gradualism works. We've seen it. We understand that wow, it's 2025. There's all sorts of technology out there. They've even got driverless cars now. Did you know that? Now, I've never seen one on the British roads, but I've seen them, on the TV in America. So that's gradualism. It's got me used to it. So when I actually see one in front of me on the UK roads, it's not going to be some big shock. I'm going to be like, oh, this is one of these things from America. And when I was young, I remember, you read through the scriptures. Obviously, Babylon the Great, makes the whole world drunk with his golden cup. All the nations follow America. So I remember when I was young, I don't know, some sort of type of footwear, some sort of clothing would come out. You'd have like something could come out in 1990. This new fashion would come out, new type of footwear, and you'd see people on TV in America wearing it, and all the people in the UK would be like, "Oh wow, yeah, yeah," but you wouldn't get it till the next year. And the next year, you'd go to the shops and you start seeing the things that they had in America last year. So we'd be behind. We'd go to the shops like, oh yeah, wow, look, we finally got those things in the shop, and you'd get it. They charge you extra money. You only get a certain amount, and then but then by the time you go home and you look on the TV and you see people in America, they got another thing because they're on the next year, and you see this. It's kind of like that still today. Um, they showcase these driverless cars, going around. Is it LA? I think it's LA. And everybody's seen the YouTube clips, the social media clips. They've seen it on the news, this, that, and the other. So it's not a surprise. You don't have to see it in your town or your country to get used to it. They've got the TV, and that gets people used to it. So now when they bring it over here, it says here, could London have driverless cabs in the next 2 years? They're looking to Uber's looking to bring over driverless cabs over here. So again, this is getting us into that whole mindset of AI taking over with a taxi, and the next thing is your car. See, this is why they have the smart motorways, the smart, in the UK, for example, they've got smart motorways, smart highways, and everything's controlled by AI. They read they read the flow of traffic on the road when they realize when AI realizes too many cars in one place because there's too much heat. I think how it works. Um, they've got sensors under the tarmac on the highway, so you've got 4 or 5 lanes of traffic all going in one way, and the sensors under the tarmac can sense the the amount of traffic. So if it starts to weigh down and they know the traffic's building up in that one particular area because the traffic isn't moving, then it starts changing the lanes, and it can control the signs. So back before that build up, it can start throwing up warning signs onto the overhead signs to say slow down, oncoming queue. And that's all done by AI. If a car breaks down, it's stationary, it's stuck in one place, it can tell. So then it closes the lane. It goes back 2 miles, it closes the lane automatically, but it's X's on the lane. Everybody has to know to get out of the lane. You get fined if you don't come out of the lane instantly, and all that kind of stuff. So, they've already kind of got, it's half there. They just need the finishing pieces to come in, and you're going to start to see them implemented. Like I said, you 2024, 2025, you've got these new governments around the world, and they're bringing in these different, like these things, like the AI driverless cab. We've seen that in America. Don't be surprised if now in the next few years you start to see that dotted up all around the world. You've seen 15-minute cities. Well, don't be surprised in the next few years you start to see them dotting up around the world. And you could go on. Uh, in the facial recognition, you've seen that in China, and in the next couple of years, don't be surprised if you start to see that popping up all around the world in different places. We're in that time. Um, is you can only say it like that. That's all you can say. You can just say we're in that time. But if the spirit's not working with you, then that's not gonna. It's not gonna bring any type of alarm, any feeling of alarm. When you hear, you understand these prophecies, and you see this type of thing that's happening before us. Really, you should be alarmed. Yes, it says you go here. It says rest in Yahweh. So we rest in the fact that we believe we're of the elect. We wait patiently. We let the wicked bring forth their devices, bring them to pass. We know where it's heading. We know when it comes to that crucial point, we have to refuse the MOTB. But at the same time, obviously, you know, this is something that our spirit is waiting on Yahweh Shai. So you think like if you are of the elect and you are then predestinated, made from the foundations of the earth, then you're made to receive this word, which means then you're made to have that ultimate day where Yahweh Shai comes back and you have that joy. So you're gonna be excited building up to it. You're gonna alarm bells start ringing like, yeah, we're there. You start rubbing your hands together, and obviously you pray hastily for the day, but at the same time we rest in Yahweh because we know obviously when the trouble comes, we believe that calling on Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, will see us through and give us that right of spirit in order to be able to refuse the MOTB, go without, and see where it takes us. Because ultimately we don't know. As much as we can break down prophecy and we can give you all these future events and all these secrets of the Most High, I can't tell you what I'm going to do when the MOTB gets made mandatory, where I'm going to eat. I don't have food stocked up. I'm not stockpiling. I've got a child to feed. So, end of the day, anything we bring into the house, we eat. is gone by the end of the week. So how am I going to store up food for the next 6 months when I can barely, get food in for the next week? But um, but this is it. See, we rest in Yahweh. We wait patiently for Him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. So it says, goes on to say, Psalms 37:8, it says, cease from anger and forsake wrath. It says, fret not thyself in any wise to do evil. It says, for evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait upon Yahweh, they shall inherit the earth. And that's what we're waiting on. And another one here, I'm speaking today of Satan's devices. We're not ignorant of his devices. Um, you know, like I keep saying with the agenda, we know where all roads lead to the MOTB, eventually lead to World War III and destruction, deliverance, so on and so forth. So we're not ignorant of the devices that are taking us in that particular direction. Now, since January 2025, the last 2, 3 months, 2.5 months or so, there's been a lot going on, and one of those things is incidences with the planes. You've had various different incidences in America. You've had Donald Trump. He came out and he said that the aviation industry needs to stop hiring, based on diversity, and rather need to start hiring people based on who's qualified to do the job properly. Now, there's been an incident. You've probably seen it yourself. Today's Monday, the 24th of March, and on Friday, what's that, 21st of March, there was a shutdown of Heathrow Airport in London, as you can see here on the screen. Now, this is the airport where I work. I've only just started working there actually. Um, Looking at this particular map here. Hang on a second, just trying to. Yeah, so you've pretty much got, this is Heathrow Airport in London, and so if you back out basically, this is London for you. North, south, east, west, and so right on the outskirts, you've got central London here. This is what they call central London, and then you've got Greater London, which is the outside part, and then you've got this famous highway, the M25, which pretty much circles London, and so that's pretty much the if you like, the border. And then once you get out of London, you pretty much start to go into other counties and so on and so forth. So Heathrow's is pretty much on the outskirts, and you can see here. So what happened with the shutdown for Heathrow Airport was pretty much just based on a shortage of power. Now, what they do, they have like a highway. For example, you've got these particular highways coming out of London, but you've got electricity highways. Wherever they are, whether they're on the same routes or not, I don't know. And what happens is when these electricity travels through a highway, and then it will branch off into different towns and different places. They'll have substations. So I don't know why it's taking me back over there. So you have a substation here, which was the one that feeds pretty much the airport. For example, I live here, so there'll be another substation somewhere which feeds my area. So my area wasn't affected, but this one was. And now what happened here? You had a fire, a transformer, and the transformer has oil to keep it cool, because obviously it reaches high temperatures. You could use water to keep things cool, but then water boils at 100 degrees. So if you're going in high temperatures, you tend to use oil-based liquids to keep the item cool. But they're saying that the oil caught fire, and then obviously the substation caught fire, and then obviously you had a power cut, and then that's what caused the power cut at the airport. And it wasn't majorly drastic if you think about it. It was it lasted a day, and then towards the end of the day they started to get power back on, and planes were taking off, so on and so forth. Landing, taking off, so on and so forth. So there's a couple of issues that have come out of it. Um, with the airport themselves, there's a lot of people they're saying, well, you should have backup power. What it is with the airport. You can see it here. They've got you've got one. I believe that's one terminal. One, two, three, four. Terminal four. This is where I work, and the loc. All the paperwork that I see when I'm working in the airport, because obviously we come under maintenance, building maintenance, so we're constantly dealing with the building, like different locations within the building, and the location of that building, the number is 14400. Um, and you get on that, it's not a coincidence. But then you've got Terminal 5 here. So the most time these things happen, you end up working at a building, and it so happens to be the one that's labelled 14400. So that's all I see all day: 14400, 144001, 144002. But yeah. So what happened? Where is it? The power station up there, pretty much. Yep. So cut off parts of power. The airport, they had a backup diesel generator. The backup diesel generator, they were told that you can't use it because it's not green. It doesn't come under, climate controls, so on and so forth. So they said, okay, what we'll do, we'll swap the diesel generator for a biomass generator. Now, a biomass generator is a generator, but it doesn't operate on diesel. It operates on biomass, so like natural products like wood, things you'd find in nature. Now, what it is a big thing to change. You got a whole airport on this big infrastructure, and you're just because of this agenda, you're gonna what? You're gonna switch from diesel generator, backup generator to a biomass generator. Yes, they said they'd do it, and they put their plans in place. So when you go down here somewhere, um, around one of these lakes, you'll find a site where there's a whole bunch of trees chopped down and laid up ready to use. They're laid up ready to use for the backup generator. But the thing is, they're not ready. So you can't just go there in a couple of hours and pick them up and bring them over. So it's a big logistical thing. So they're trying to work through this scenario where they switch things from to a greener way of doing things, but at the meantime, something went wrong. They weren't ready. Now you read it here, for example, Heathrow boss, he went back to sleep, he went back to bed as the power station fire sparks airport chaos. Because end of the day, what can you do? You see what it is. People are in uproar because this is our infrastructure. This is how we travel. This is one of the busiest airports in the world. Yeah, but Heathrow aren't. They're not medical. They're not like the government. So they're just there to make money. And the bottom line is, they fall in. They show you, we're green. We'll switch our backup generator to a biomass one. But when it comes to getting it ready, they just laugh. They just think, well, what do you want us to change this whole infrastructure just by clicking our fingers? That ain't possible. So when it goes wrong, they shrug their shoulders and they go back to bed. They said, well, we're making our money. Them same flights will go out. They just have to go out 24 hours late. So And then now people are saying, they could have, they should really look. National Grid chief says Heathrow had enough power despite the fire shutdown, so they got this back and forth. The real issue when you go outside of that, you got is if Russia was behind the Heathrow fire, is that an act of war? So here we go. So now we're not ignorant of these devices that Satan is using. They're like we've been saying, there's something going on with this air industry, since January 2025, and then now, like for example, you've had this event. Now, okay, nobody's harmed and everything got back to normal. But another thing they're bringing out is they're saying, uh, um, how can like one particular thing just bring down? How can one how can like one how can you just knock down one particular thing and it just knocks out a major part of infrastructure? So that's one thing. Maybe it's going to take AI to operate and control these things in order to, make it safe. I don't know. I don't know where this particular one's going, but they're coming out with all these particular things, and like I say, they're trying to link it with Russia. Um, I even had I was talking to someone like earlier on down the road, and some Polish guy, and he was saying to me, "Nah," he goes, "This has been happening in Europe as well." I said, "What do you mean?" He said that it happened in Poland, like the second biggest supermarket or something in Poland burnt down. And when they caught the guys said, "Yeah, we're paid by Russia to do it." And then there was another fire somewhere else in another country he was telling me about, and he said that he's not, now he's seen this one. He said he's not surprised. It's probably the same thing. So they could, we know the banking elites, all wars are bankers' wars. So the World War Three is going to be part of the reset. When there's world war, you have a financial reset. We're expecting a financial reset. We're seeing the AI infrastructure being put into place. You got Nero 2.0 calling shots. We're in that time. We're literally in that time. Um, and all these things that are happening around us. Part of it is like chaos. Like I say, there's a lot of madness going on. The Most High is bringing calamity. It's going to get worse. But at the same time, obviously, there's order out of chaos. So they're bringing chaos. These Edomites bring these particular chaotic events. And eventually, the answer, the real overriding answer, is going to be AI. But under the umbrella of AI is that 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 device, that particular device that goes under the skin, in which no man may buy or sell. Say he had that particular mark. So yeah, that's all it was really. Just a couple of things. Mentioned a few little particular devices. We're seeing these little things happening here and there, and obviously, like I keep saying, all roads lead to the MOTB. So I hope that's edifying. I'm gonna leave it right there. Until next time, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakak, Wadash. Until next time, Shalom.